Thank you so much. Thank you, Anja, much for inviting me, and to all the great colleagues here from Kindle for all your help during this. Okay, so I will also talk about, let's say the history of a progressive state, but of course our history is also complex and troubling, marked by a lot of systemic violence rooted in eugenics. So we will speak briefly about that. So in 1922, the Swedish Institute for Racial Biology opened in the Uppsala University, where I also studied. And this was the first government-funded racial biology institute in the world. Its purpose was to conduct research into human genetics and promote the pseudo-scientific ideas of racial hygiene, which were prevalent, as you know, in early 20s. And the institute's founder, which you will find here in the first image, Herman Lundborg, was a prominent advocate of eugenics and to keep the Swedish people's so-called cleanness in genetic terms. And he conducted physical characteristic studies, often focusing on the Sami population, which is the indigenous Swedish population, and other minorities such as Roma or poor people or differently abled people or anyone who they could call so-called degenerates that would hurt the Swedish race. So in this image we see one of their excursions in the middle, to the north of Sweden, which is part of Sápmi, where Sami people are living, and then some of the photography books that you can land in the library with all the photography which they did in their research. So the research aimed to classify and rank human beings based on supposed racial hierarchies, and this work was, laid the ground for discriminatory policies, including forced sterilization as well, which was carried out in Sweden from the 1930s to the 1970s on the above-mentioned groups. Yes, we can change. Yeah, and here we see some of those images that was taken specifically among the Sami group. This institute was closed in 1958, and it shifted its focus, of course, early around the 40s, and the focus, up to the 58 was more looking into medical genetics and, trying to minimize this idea of racial discrimination that its history laid the grounds for. But the director, Herman Lundborg, he also became an honorary doctor here in Germany during the 30s for his work. So we could choose. The Sami people are an indigenous people of the Northern Europe, so residing in Sápmi, which is spans across the northern Sweden, Norway, Finland, and parts of Russia. In Sweden, the Sápmi people hold a unique position as indigenous minority, and they're also recognized in law and entitled to specific cultural and linguistic protections. Their relationship with Sweden has, of course, been shaped by centuries of colonialism, systemic discrimination, and a long history of marginalizations linked to things like land seizure, exploitation, forced assimilation, laws connected to the state trying to decide how their reindeer husbandry should work, and this has also led to a lot of cultural repression. And now with mines and all of these things, it's also environmental destruction and most of all a denial of self-determination yet to this day. Here we see the artist Andis Sunna, and he was invited to the 2022 Venice Biennial to make a work, and this was the Nordic pavilion that was then called the Sami or Sápmi pavilion, and the work which we could see next, Yeah, we'll take maybe this work first. So this is a work that we showed in our joint exhibition in Stockholm, and it's by Anders Sune as well. And we see this specific Sami knife put in the middle of the sort of seal of the Swedish state. And on the other side of the work, there's also these plastic sort of notes that would point to specific laws within the Swedish law that was utilized by his families in his ongoing legal battle against the Swedish state, which we will come back to. So we could take, yeah, so this is the work from 2022 and the Venice work, and it's called Illegal Spirits of Sapmi. It's a monumental work, as you see. It's 20 meters long, and it chronicles his family's almost half-century-long struggle with the Swedish authorities. Coming from a lineage of Sami forest reindeer herders, Suna's family was forced from 1971 to be in part in to give up parts of their traditional reindeer lifestyle, and this has been something that the family has tried to change through different legal means ever since. So the artwork unfolds in 5 chapters. It's each represented by a large painting documenting this conflict. So this is one of the paintings. So you could see the police. You see the folders behind in the structure holding the paintings. And these folders are part of the archive of the family of all the legal battles with the Swedish state. Here's another one. And, sorry, you can go back once, yeah. You can also see how he depicts all of the people that has been involved in this struggle, and it also has this linkage to sort of Third Reich uniforms that he uses for the state personnel in his work. And his work is also filled with different coded Sami spiritual symbols and historical references, and the whole point is also to challenge the narrative of Sweden, which is, often leaves out these things. For Suna, art means protest, empowerment, and a way to transform anger into creation and connect deeply with others through art. His work demands recognition of Sami's sovereignty and ways of being, bridging the personal and political to tell stories of resistance. Can we go? Yeah. Another part, this is artist Sam Hultin. And Sam Hultin works in various ways, but it's a dedication to queer history and to collective memory. And during the last couple of years, Sam Hultin has created a new archive, and this archive is called Eva-Lisa's Monument, and it's a project where she challenges the ongoing erasure of queer histories and commemorating collective resilience and ongoing struggle for equality. We are here meeting Eva-Lisa Bengtsson, born in Stockholm 1932. She was a trailblazer, in that she understood her gender identity at an early age. Her courageous coming out as a transgender, and in those days, transvestite, in 1964, was met with medical blowback from everyone, of course, from psychology to doctors, sparking a fight for recognition that defined her journey to build her own community. And she established in 1964 a club called Transvestia, the first club in Sweden of this kind, which became this very vital space for trans individuals and everyone else. The Hall of Mirrors was a specific club within the club, which was a sanctuary for self-expression. Through walking tours and other performative readings, Sam Hultin has brought this history of activism back to light. And here we see some images of Sam, walking with the audience members through Stockholm, telling the stories of spaces that don't longer exist, but the stories needs to be known. And we all also today know, all of us, this ongoing anti-trans rhetoric and disregard for human rights of trans people, which has led to losses of rights all over the world, and in some places also delayed in reforms. Sweden was the first country in the world in 1972 to enact legislation allowing transgender individuals to access surgery, hormone treatment, and a change of legal gender. But there was a big but. However, what you needed to sign up to get this health care was that you were unmarried, a Swedish citizen, at least 18-year-old, and that you would be sterilized. Without sterilization, no gender change was approved by the state. This also meant that the sterilization law prohibited transgender individuals to preserve sperms or eggs that could have so they could have biological children later in life. This was not allowed either. And this was ongoing until 2013, where trans activists and their allies have spent decades advocating for change of this law, but it wasn't until 2013 that the Swedish Parliament, after having stalled this change with different claims of needing multiple investigations into this issue, it was first then that the LGBTQ+ movement got the government to change the law. But even as late as 2013, people were sterilized. Additionally, what was needed to change this was an international petition against the forced sterilizations in Sweden, which garnered 75,000 signatures and was sent to the parliament in Sweden. Between 1972 and 2013, individuals that were sterilized was also then offered a form of compensation from the state, which was approximately 20,000 euros. And you had 2 years to put in your claim for that money. The compensation was part of an official apology for the government's involvement in this forced sterilization of around 900 individuals. The Swedish Parliament also said that they would investigate further into why this happened, but I don't know what their answer to this was, because it was obviously a state policy that is grounded in the history of a tradition of sterilization. One of the plays can go on. So there was this play called Cash is Queen that came out during this time, and the question that was sort of asked by the writers Neo Mick and Xenia Klein was, what did you do with your money? So it was based on interviews on people that have got the money, and basically it's one of the more clear time we could hear voices from people, the former victims of these policies. Ultimately, though, the people who received the money felt that money could not, of course, soothe the wounds of inflicted involuntary childlessness, a decision that wasn't based on biology, but based on state sanction. And one of the characters pointedly remarks that 225,000 Swedish kronor is mere a sprinkle of cash. I wanted millions, and better yet billions, as reparation, but most of all, I wanted an apology. Thank you.